Welcome to Daily Life Connection. Thank you for joining me again today. 2 Samuel chapter 9, story of Mephibosheth. We continue exploring it to see God's heart. Isn't this an amazing story? Isn't it just an amazing story? I just want to encourage you again. Take time. I would encourage you every day if you can. It's a pretty short story, but get this story and read through it. Or, pull up an audio Bible. You can do that online anywhere. Just do a web search for Bible U version or one of those, and it'll bring it up for you. Just so that become really familiar with this story. And I believe God will show you things that beyond what we're just talking about as well. So today I want to talk about in verse 6, David calls Mephibosheth by name. Interestingly, in that when the story begins, David said, "Is there anybody left from Saul's house that I could show kindness to?" And the servant says to him, "There is one. He's a lame boy, and he lives in Lodabar." Doesn't use his name. Doesn't use his name. There's one guy left, and he's a cripple. He calls him by his label, not by his name. But when Mephibosheth gets to the palace and is brought in before David, David calls him by name. He says to him, "Mephibosheth, Mephibosheth." And Mephibosheth's response goes like, "I'm just a dog. I'm a nobody." And David says, "No, you're Mephibosheth." Now, I hope David had an easier time pronouncing his name than I do. It's so hard to get this name right, isn't it? But David calls him by his, isn't that good? That's Jesus. He calls you by who you really are. So many other people call you by names. They call you by labels and names, and it isn't quite who you are. Jesus always calls you by who you really are. Wow, that's good. Who he has created you to be. He knows your name. He knows your name. Others may call you by your brokenness. Oh, yeah, he's the lazy one. Oh, she's the one that gets angry all the time. Oh, the guy down the office down the hall there, the schemer, the guy that's always got a scheme. Oh, well, so-and-so, they're a liar. Don't trust them. He's a womanizer. She's a druggie. He's money hungry. She's a poser. We so often get labeled and people don't know us by who we really are. Because those areas of our brokenness may be true, but they're not who we are. Mephibosheth's crippled ankles were not who Mephibosheth was. He was so much greater than his brokenness. And so are you. And so am I. God calls us by our name, who he created us to be. He doesn't look at our labels. He looks at our name. And that is so encouraging. He's a personal God. He's a personal God. He stands in the front of the tomb there in John chapter 11. And what does he say? He doesn't say, "Hey, dead man, come on out." He says, "Lazarus, come out." He looks up in the tree and he says, "Zacchaeus, come down." Jesus was so good at using names, wasn't he? Remember when he called Simon Peter? Simon was known as Simon. And Jesus called him and said, "You're not going to be Simon anymore. I'm going to call you Peter, or Rock, because that's who you really are." Jesus could see past Peter's brokenness into the character of his heart, and he called him by that. He's a personal God. At the tomb, at the resurrection, on Easter Sunday morning, you remember Mary is weeping before the tomb, brokenhearted. And what does he say? He doesn't say, "Hey, sister, lady." He says, "Mary, Mary." And when he called her name, she recognized him. Listen to Jesus calling your name, will you? Take some time today and just say, "Call me by who I really am." And listen for his voice in your inner being. I just challenge you to do that today. I just really feel prompted to encourage you to do that today. Jesus, call me by my name, not my brokenness. Yeah, that's good news. Let's listen for him to call us who we really are. To him. To him. King David is saying, you may be the lame kid to my servants, but to me you're Mephibosheth. You're who you are named to be. Good news. Let's think about it. We'll talk again tomorrow.